I should have seen it coming the moment I started putting up my new fence. My property was pristine, with clear views of the lake just beyond my land. A perfect getaway from the chaos of suburban life. I had already mapped out my little slice of paradise, but in the world of Pineview Estates, nothing is ever simple. Especially when it comes to Karen Foster, the HOA president and self-appointed ruler of the neighborhood. At first, it was just the usual HOA nonsense. Karen had given me a few friendly reminders about keeping the grass trimmed and making sure my mailbox was the correct shade of black, as if anyone could tell the difference between black and, well, black. But when I started building my fence, that's when things took a turn for the worse. I was out there one morning hammering in the posts when I heard her voice from across the street. "Excuse me, Mr. Miller." I looked up to find Karen standing by her perfectly manicured lawn, her arms crossed and her face twisted into a frown. "That fence of yours, it's going to block the view of the lake." I stared at her, confused. "It's my property, Karen. I have every right to build it where I want." "Oh, I'm sure you do," she said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "But it's just a little inconsiderate, don't you think? Some of us enjoy the view." I was planning on hosting a few garden parties this summer. "And, well, your fence is right in the way of my seating area." I blinked. "Garden parties? You're kidding, right?" "I'm serious," she said, her tone suddenly cold. "You've been warned. You'll be receiving a violation notice from the HOA soon enough." And just like that, she turned on her heel and walked back to her pristine lawn, leaving me standing there, my hammer still in my hand. I should have known better than to think I could do anything in Pineview Estates without her sticking her nose in it. Sure enough, within the hour, I received my first violation notice, citing the fence as a hazard to the aesthetic integrity of the community. I shrugged it off. I knew it was just Karen's way of trying to control me, but when I got a second, then a third notice, each one more ridiculous than the last, I knew this wasn't just about a fence anymore. It was about power. And Karen was using the HOA to make sure she could flex hers over me. Then came the breaking point. One afternoon, I came home to find my fence had been completely trashed. Some of the posts had been yanked out of the ground. Others were lying across my lawn, broken. And as if that wasn't bad enough, someone had spray-painted "No Fences for Lake Views" in bold, ugly letters across the front. It didn't take a genius to figure out who was behind this. Karen. I immediately called the police. But I knew this was more than just a random act of vandalism. This was her sending a message. If I didn't play by her rules, there would be consequences. But what she didn't know was that I had a few tricks of my own. The very next day, I hired a team of lawyers. We went over every contract, every clause in the HOA's bylaws, and every piece of legal mumbo-jumbo that might help me get my revenge. But then I realized something. Karen didn't just control the neighborhood's aesthetic rules. She controlled the HOA's budget, the same budget that funded everything from the local parks to, well, her own lavish garden parties. What she didn't know was that I had been paying attention. For months, I'd been quietly contributing to the HOA's emergency fund, an account that didn't have strict oversight. I had enough leverage to make a few suggestions of my own. I filed a claim with the HOA to make repairs to my fence and demanded that they cover the cost. I also took the liberty of adding a few expenses to the budget. Expenses Karen wasn't aware of, like lake access maintenance for the shared areas, and a hefty amount to remodel the neighborhood's community center. The best part? I had full access to the HOA's financial details. Every little donation she had made to inflate her own status in the neighborhood, I redirected those funds. Karen thought she was untouchable, but I was about to remind her that no one was above the law, especially when it came to money. The board, caught between a rock and a hard place, couldn't deny the legitimacy of my claims. They approved the funds, and suddenly, everything she owned was up for grabs. Karen had been using her position to play the victim and manipulate the system for years. But now it was my turn. Within a few days, the once privileged, pristine areas of her property began to deteriorate. The HOA fines started piling up. She couldn't hide behind her position anymore. My legal claims and the community's shared funds had brought her to her knees, and that's when I decided to take it one step further. I held a community meeting, and with the full backing of the HOA board, I presented evidence of Karen's personal violations, everything. From illegal construction to tax dodging, the room was silent, the tension thick. When the votes were counted, Karen was officially removed from her position, and her lavish garden party plans were shot down. Karen's face was white as a sheet when she realized what had just happened. The board, which she thought she controlled, now looked at her with disdain. "I hope you're ready to answer for everything." "Karen," I said as she stood there, trembling with rage. "I'm just getting started." Her face was a mixture of disbelief and fury. "You can't do this. I'm the HOA president." I smiled. "Not anymore." As she was escorted out of the room, muttering about her rights, I couldn't help but feel a sense of satisfaction. She had underestimated me, just like everyone else who tried to stand in my way. Pineview Estates wasn't her kingdom to rule anymore. By the time I finished the final repairs on my fence, I had taken control of more than just a few sections of the HOA budget. I had taken back what was mine and then some. And Karen? She was left with nothing but a broken reputation and a heap of unpaid fines. Sometimes, the best revenge is simply turning the tables and watching the once mighty fall.